All right. What's up, everybody? This is Will at Schedulefly, and I am here in Charleston, South Carolina at Prohibition. I'm with Ray Burns, owner, and Alexa Pavloski, who is events manager and just wears a ton of hats here. And we're hanging out. Ray's got 2 locations of Prohibition here in Savannah, Georgia. Y'all have a great reputation. All the folks I spoke to last night and today have said wonderful things about Prohibition, so I know you already probably know that. But
thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Wonderful to hear that. So, Ray, let's get started with you, man. How did you get started in hospitality initially? What's your background? After you just told me you were a sound engineer, as I'm trying to get my my technical piece of this worked out.
Well, my story in a nutshell is I came to New York in '98. I came as a musician, DJ, and then quickly realized that I needed a job to pay my bills. Being a musician in New York is not as easy as it seemed. But I always worked in bars back home in Ireland, where I'm from originally. And I fell into the bar scene in Greenwich Village in the 90s. And just loved it. I worked in a bar called the Red Lion, where I met my business partner, James, and my other business partner, Jim McCourt. So we all met in New York in the 90s, and ended up I opened my own club up there on the Lower East Side, and opened another Irish bar on the Lower East Side, and then ultimately we opened in Charleston 5 years ago. We just opened our second location in Savannah 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. So. Yeah, I always worked in the bar scene, the restaurant scene, and happy to be here in Charleston.
Do you still have your places in New York?
No, New York's just become so gentrified now. We were in the Lower East Side, and we were so lucky to have a 1-story building, which is unheard of. Yeah, in that part of the city, and a developer came in and it's right beside Cat's Deli actually, and bought the whole block and knocked it down, and now I think it's like an Equinox fitness center and luxury apartments. Yeah. So, yeah. But, so we moved down here. I moved down here 2 years ago. I was traveling back and forward from New York for about 4 years. So I moved down here full-time 2 summers ago.
How'd you land on Charleston?
Well, my business partner, James, he'd been down here scouting, seeing what was going on. And he was initially supposed to move down here I think 5 or 6 years ago, just as it was starting to happen. Sorry, it would have been longer than that. It would have been eight years ago, just as it was really starting to gain some traction. And another opportunity came up like 5 years ago, and he just jumped at it. So, it was $12 a square foot as opposed to $80 a square foot in New York. It's a lot cheaper to do business down here. So. And the weather's beautiful.
And the weather's beautiful, and the people are great, and the city's just amazing. And, I mean, you're in a great location, too. You're on King Street, for those of you that don't know Charleston. I mean, that's sort of like the main road here.
It's pretty happening. There's a lot of really fun stuff, and a lot of really very talented people down here now as well, especially in the restaurant business. The culinary scene here has really exploded, the cocktail scene. It's been a bit of a challenge, but it's a great city to do business in.
And how did you find Alexa?
Well, we have a pretty big space, and we just developed our outdoor area, and we realized quickly we needed an events manager, somebody to really grab the bull by the horns and manage all the inquiries that were coming in, and then it just snowballed once we got Alexa on board. She really grew that part of the business, and she's been a great asset and a great friend. Working with her has been awesome. We've learned a lot from her, and she's really integrated well with our team and become an integral part of it. And now she's running the show pretty much now.
Yeah, I know she does a lot of stuff. Let's hand the mic over to her. And all right, Alexa. So that's a nice. That's
very nice
intro.
Thank you.
Yeah. How did you get into hospitality, and what's your backstory?
I grew up in New Jersey, and I started working in a restaurant at 15 and loved it, and realized that seeing my parents work 9 to 5s and having 2 weeks off a year, and the weekends, I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I want to work really hard. I want to be able to travel, and like the restaurant industry kind of opens you up to do that. You can kind of work anywhere, having that skill. So I actually got my undergrad in business and hospitality and tourism management. That eventually took me out to Hawaii. So I was working and living out in Hawaii, continued my education out there a little bit too. Just really fell more in love with the industry. That eventually got me to San Francisco, where I opened 3 restaurants and bars out there, got Schedule Fly out there.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, at all 3 of those places. And and was out there for about 6 years running restaurants and bars and just going up in management there. And then eventually I just really wanted to get out of San Francisco. And
why is that?
Expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive, isn't
really
it?
expensive city to live in. And I just feel like I kind of stretched my wings there. Really studied wine out there and kind of just plateaued a little bit. So I kind of wanted to go somewhere else and also get to warmer weather. So kind of like looked around the map a little bit and never been here before, and just drove across the country, landed here, and Prohibition was actually the first bar I had a drink in Charleston ever.
Really?
And I think I started working here about 4 days later. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When was that?
About almost 2 years ago now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, actually, why don't you tell us about Prohibition? To folks that are listening to this, like, what's the story of Prohibition? What?
It's a really interesting spot. I remember the first time I walked in here, it was the first time ever walking downtown Charleston. Like, I live only a couple blocks from here, and it kind of was the first bar that grabbed my eye. Just like, it looked really crowded. I saw like the back bar, and it was just filled with whiskey, which that's my drink of choice. So I was like, okay. So walked in, it had some music playing, like live music. Sat down right away at the bar and was greeted with this nicest person ever, and we're just like, we just moved here, and he was like, oh, okay, like here, like, has a drink, like, do you want to do a shot, like, welcome to Charleston. And I was like, oh, thank you. And it was just so welcoming. And then I walked through the venue more and found out that we actually had another bar that was filled and crowded and like really nice people out there. And I walked through again and see this huge patio, and I'm like, wow, this place is amazing. And then I continued to walk down the street and visited more restaurants and bars, and I wasn't treated at all as well as I was treated here. So it kind of made me want to work here right away. And I actually saw a posting on Indeed for an event coordinator the next day and came in and got an interview and started working here.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So that's an important part of this. I want to ask it. Pass that back over to Ray, so she had this experience of coming in here and the way she was treated versus, how she was treated elsewhere. Has that been a big part of what you've tried to do, is the experience your customers have? I mean, you've got great product, you've got great ambience, but is that been a big part of the success of this business, is the team you have and the way they interact with customers and the experience they give them?
Yeah, I think, ultimately that's what we're trying to give people here is a good time, right?
Yeah.
A good experience. Whether that experience be great food, great cocktails, it has to be about great service as well. My background, all of our backgrounds are in the bar business, and in the bar business, you really have to work hard at keeping customers happy.
Yeah.
And keeping a good vibe back there. Whether it's a dive bar or whether it's a bar at a fine dining restaurant, you're there to entertain people. So I think service ultimately is what we thrive to excel in. Obviously, as I said before, the cocktails and the food are paramount, but service is the ultimate. So yeah, we thrive to deliver great quality.
Can you train that, or is that something that has to be inherent? Do you hire to folks that maybe don't have experience but have a natural inclination to want to take care of people? Or
yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I think. Myself and Alexa, we have a great dynamic when it comes to interviewing people. There'll be like a good cop, bad cop routine,
Yeah.
And it's for doing this for over 20 years now. As soon as somebody walks in through the door, I can nearly tell whether they're gonna be a good fit or not.
Really,
from when they first sit down, you can tell how they handle themselves, how they look at you, their body language, their energy.
Yeah,
you can tell a lot from that.
That's amazing.
Because everybody can spin a story.
Yeah, sure, right.
But you can't bullshit a bullshitter.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But I think a lot of it can be. You can train people. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But you have to have that initial want to be part of something that's pretty cool. You know, if you're coming in with an attitude, it's not really going to work.
Right.
You know? So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the things about the bar business that you think people may, you know, it sounds like it's a sexy thing. You own a bar, you own this, you know, cool whiskey bar. I mean, it just sounds awesome, and it's really appealing to a lot of people. What are the things that most people don't understand about the hard side of the business?
I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tough business because there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of really great competition.
Yeah.
Especially.
Is that good though? Does that motivate you and keep you?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're not one to rest on our laurels here. You know, we always have to be thriving to be better. You know, we're always rebuilding. We're always putting money back into the business. We're always developing our menus and our cocktail programs and our bartenders and staff. So you have to really work hard. You can't sit back and just let the money roll in, because it just rolls back out the door again. You know, it's like, I think people don't realize as well how expensive it is to run a business. You know, from certain expenses that people don't even think about. You know, from
What's an example of that?
Well, payroll.
Yeah.
You know, your taxes. I mean, especially in Charleston, it's like you pay a liquor by the drink tax, you pay a hospitality tax, you pay your business license.
It adds up.
It is astronomical compared to any other city or state that I've worked in.
Okay.
So there's your insurance. I mean, there's so many different parts, and especially with what we have here at Prohibition. You know, we've live music, we turn into a club, we do casual fine dining. We've got the best Irish whiskey selection in the south. We've an amazing bourbon selection. So staying on top of all that, it gets pretty expensive.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
But ultimately fun.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you love it. I know, and I know you work really hard at it as well. You say you opened the second location a couple years ago in Savannah?
Yeah, we opened Savannah like a year and a half ago. I think it was October 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's it going?
So it's going good. Yeah, it's a different burn than Charleston. Charleston and Savannah, people say they're sister cities. I would disagree with that.
Okay.
I think they've got their own personalities. Savannah's a great town. I really love it, but it's very unique. It's a lot more gritty. And what's interesting about Savannah is the restaurant scene down there is really starting to blossom. You know, you have restaurants down there like the Grey.
Yeah, place is phenomenal
which
here.
is great.
Yeah.
We've become good friends with the guys down there, which we're right beside them actually. You know, we're on the same block.
Okay.
So the restaurant scene and the culinary scene down there is starting to be a lot more elevated. I see restaurants from New York coming down. I see the Fat Radish is about to open down there beside us. So it's a burgeoning scene, whereas Charleston's more. It's already blossomed. You know.
Yeah.
And there's a different clientele down there as well.
What do you mean by more gritty?
It reminds me of New York.
Okay.
In the late 90s, you know, where it's still got a bit of an edge to it.
Okay.
You
All
know,
right.
it's a little bit more raw.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially living in New York 20 years, you know.
Yeah.
I go down there and it's it's a little bit more relaxed, a bit more chilled out, but a bit grittier. So
Okay, gotcha. Alexa, tell me about some of the things that, like some of the events that you've done and have planned that have been big successes here.
So coming from San Francisco and being the event coordinator there, it was all about dealing with tech companies and a lot of corporate events. So then coming here, I realized that I think we're about 85%. I just looked of more personal events, one-time events, you know, wedding receptions, rehearsal dinners, actual weddings, and only about 15% would be corporate. So
Okay.
It's a whole different ball game here than it was there. So I'm dealing with people who have never planned an event before. So it's a lot different. Yeah. It's a really great space for rehearsal dinners and receptions, and that's usually what most of our event business is here now. our patio can host about 60 people for a seated dinner, and we can accommodate about 120 outside just for a standing reception. We have like our own bar out there. They can design their own cocktail list if they want. We
got some background visitors. Yeah.
But it's just a great spot. Luckily, like all the furniture and everything, we designed the room per the event, which is really unique. It's also really nice for them because since we are a restaurant, we have all of the chairs, all the tables, all the service. So it's really easy for you to come plan an event here because you tell us what you want and we'll just make it happen.
You make it happen.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't have to worry about renting or anything like that.
Okay. So I got it. Then there's a lot of detailed planning that goes into this.
There is
a whole lot, clearly.
Yeah.
But you just told me you spent 3 months in Australia.
I did, yeah. And planned remotely. Yeah.
Did you feel confident this was gonna work? And how did you? How did this happen? How do you go and say, "Can I take 3 months in Australia?" But I can still plan all the events.
Well, Alexa invited me out for a pint, and she says, "I need to talk to you about something." I was like, "Oh God, here we go."
Right.
And she's like, "I got some good news and bad news." The bad news was she was leaving us for a couple of months, but the good news was she was coming back. So we just figured out a way. As I said before, Alexa's a very important part of our team, and we would want to work with her in any capacity, you know. So we're all pretty tech savvy, and we figured out a way to make it happen. 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 miles across the world.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible.
But and especially during the holiday period as well. So that was interesting. But I'll give it over to Alexa here.
Yeah, it was a lot of waking up at 3 a.m. to answer emails and make sure everything was still running smooth.
I mean, you've got to have a team that you really trust too, because I would imagine you're probably heavily involved in the actual.
Yeah, I'm at
on site and keeping an eye on things. And
I'm at almost everyone that are here, but unfortunately for those 3 months I couldn't, so I did have to rely a lot on the staff, and they really picked up, and I'm really gracious for that because that's my livelihood, you know. So
yeah,
they were great. Yeah, so it's just a little bit of extra communication on my end, and then just like making sure you have verbatim what needs to happen and getting it all written down. Yeah, the banquet orders and contracts and all of that, and just communication.
During the events, we had somebody stand with an iPad and FaceTimed her just to make.
That's funny.
I'm just kidding.
Well, you must have. I mean, you must have a long. You know, you obviously have a lot of trust in Alexa, and I'm imagining you're probably, from what I'm hearing, you probably have a long tenured staff by and large. I mean, is your turnover pretty low? Or
I think our turnover has been really. It's been a lot lower over the last 2 years. Things have really settled down, but it's the nature of the business. You know, it's a transient industry that we work in. You know, people come and go all the time, but we do our best to make sure that the people we really value, and we value everybody. You know, but if you really want to step up your game and come up the bat for us, we'll make sure you're taken care of, whether it's health benefits or making sure you're paid appropriately. But we always value our employees. You know, but yeah, the turnover's dropped a lot over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But obviously with a new business like Savannah, we've seen a lot of turnover, you know.
Yeah, talk about getting into a new market. I mean, did you know folks in the market down there before you went? Or I know you obviously did a lot of due diligence and research, but did you have a good network of acquaintances or colleagues or friends down there?
It was, we kind of stepped out of our comfort zone a little. We're all from Ireland, but ultimately lived in New York for 20 years. I can go to New York and walk into any bar and I'll know the bartender, you know. Okay, so we didn't have that kind of support network in Savannah. So it's 100 miles from Charleston. So,
is it that far? I didn't realize it was that far.
It is, yeah. It's like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, an hour and 53 minutes. Drive it a lot, but we didn't. We stepped out of our comfort zone a little.
Yeah.
Plus the build out took us like 2.5 years.
Really?
Yeah. Took a long time to build it up.
Is that because it's an old building and there's a lot of permitting?
Well, it was the space we took over was a real disaster. Okay. It was a brand new space, but we wanted to make it unique.
Yeah.
You know, like the space here, you walk into it, you know it's Prohibition. You can see the love and effort that's gone into building it, and we doubled down on that. with Savannah. I mean, we ship wood down from Chicago that used to house an old speakeasy. We ship down a lot of stuff from Brooklyn, reclaimed wood from all over the country. So it took a long time to build. And funny enough, Savannah, the atmosphere and the environment in Savannah changed within that 2.5 years because more and more restaurants were starting to open up. So we opened at a good time, but it was out of our comfort zone.
Yeah. But you're glad you're there, and do you plan to continue growing the brand?
Yeah, always looking to continue. Watch the space. We got a few things on the go at the minute, but always looking to grow.
Grow the concept or grow the business. Other concepts
I think we've got such a great team here.
Yeah.
And a very creative team. There's always opportunity out there for maybe branching out to creating our own spirits, which is something I've been looking into very heavily.
Okay.
And the restaurant business is in our blood, so there's opportunities come our way all the time, and we take every single one of those seriously, and we look at them legitimately. So there's a few things I'm looking at right now, but
okay, gotcha.
I'll let you know on the next podcast.
Yeah, sure. I'll be interested in finding out more. Do you collaborate? Do y'all collaborate with a lot of the other restaurants here? I mean, is there a rising tide lifts all boats mentality in Charleston, or is it just a highly competitive space and you kind of go at it on your own?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. You see that sometimes with beer and spirits and things, companies doing things together. I see that in other markets, particularly with, I guess a lot of that's with craft beer, but I don't know as much about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big food and wine festival happening that a lot of the local restaurants and bars are participating in. So that always brings us together a little bit more as a community. We're always we're all going to be in the same spot together for the whole week. So
yeah,
that's really nice. And then just on King Street alone, where we're located, there's so many bars and restaurants, and obviously the people who work in the bars and restaurants are going to be the ones frequently going to the other ones. So we all have just kind of that the little bartender handshake, I guess, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any animosity between any bar. There's there's nothing like that here in the city. I know other cities are more like that, but it's definitely not like this here. But I think we all kind of work together, and everyone takes care of one another. Southern hospitality, which is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about social media, and do you manage that for the business? Or?
I don't. We actually have an outside marketing media company who does our social media.
Has that been a big part of your success, or is it something you invest a lot in?
The social media has been it's something we haven't quite nailed down or kind of figured out how to do it correctly. It's a lot of work. It's more work than you think.
Yep.
You have to get this target market. We're kind of on the cusp. We're kind of always back and forth between us doing it ourselves and then hiring a company and then getting professional photos done, or we want something a little bit more raw. But it's so hard to tell what brings the people in with social media.
So many different parts. There's so many different parts to it as well. There's the reviews. There's content creation, and it's quality content as well. I mean, you got to pay $1,000 for a photographer to come in and take a couple of good shots for you. It can get really expensive.
Yeah.
But it's constantly changing and evolving, and then you've got Facebook changing its algorithms, which can really mess stuff up as well. So it changes a lot.
It's a tricky thing, I can tell y'all. Yeah. It's hard to figure. I just ask that because I just see so much of that now with so many of these restaurants that are. I mean, some of them are investing. They must be investing just thousands and thousands of dollars of time and energy and creating these followings and
right. But there's so much noise, it's not just the bars and restaurants that are doing it. It's every brand in the world is doing it. So you go on Instagram and you're just getting blasted nonstop by brands, and a lot of these brands are pumping millions and millions of dollars into their brand identity, and that's something you got to compete with. So it makes it very challenging. Yeah. I mean, it's something we look at a lot, so.
Yeah, absolutely. What is that? I mean, so you're in such a, I mean, particularly in this part of town, this is a heavily trafficked tourist part of town, but I would imagine perhaps in the nice months, like I know Charleston has people touring all year round, but I would imagine in nice months you have a lot of folks here. But you've got to build this business on regular repeat customers, right? Loyal repeat customers that are in frequently.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as any business. You got to have your return customers. You know, whether it's a businessman who flies to Charleston 3 times a year to the people who come in here every day or come in every week. You know, it's you have to value that, recognize it, and make sure that you're providing that service and providing the quality of food and cocktails that bring people back. So I mean, you can't. It's not that transient. You know, you have to really have your base.
Yeah.
You know, of your locals. So,
tell me about the menu and how that changes and evolves over time. I mean, you have core items both on your drink and food menu, and then what are you doing to constantly just keep that fresh? And
well, we have Jim McCord is in charge of our cocktail program. He's one of the most talented bartenders. I'm not going to say mixologist, but he's a very, very creative guy. A palate like no other. I mean, this guy he nails it, and he's constantly changing, evolving, and experimenting. Whether it's barrel-aged cocktails or different infusions, or he, as I said before, he doesn't rest on his laurels. He keeps it interesting, and the same can be said for our chef. You know, Craig Garrison. We brought him down here from L'Espalier 4 years ago, and
L'Espalier, is that
up in Boston?
Yeah, okay. Yep.
And I mean, he really elevated our food program. Super creative and very interesting chef. He's always pushing the boundaries, but he does it in a way where it's still accessible.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, I mean, as I said before, you just got to keep it as interesting as possible, but you can't push the boat out too far with certain food items. You know, you still the South is known for its shrimp and grits, and it's
right.
You know, so you gotta keep in there with that. So, but we keep it interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else on your mind? What are you spending most of your time on these days, right? 1,000 things, but
1,000 things, man. Yeah, I mean, the thing about owning a restaurant is you have to wear so many hats. You know, it's like last week I was ripping apart the PAs, the sound system, you know, and making sure that it was up and running properly. And then the next week I'm dealing with a staff issue, or I'm dealing with taxes, or I'm dealing with paperwork, or there's so many hats to wear. You know, I still like to manage, so I'm in here managing brunch, still in cleaning toilets and unblocking toilets, and I mean it's not a glamorous life. But it's a life that I enjoy very much. You can't be working for yourself. The challenges that arise are different every day.
Yeah,
and that's what really appeals to me. That I wake up in the morning and I'm what have I got to do today?
Yeah,
you know. So I love it, and I love this place. I love the staff. I love the people who work here. I love the people who come in and check us out. And long live Prohibition.
I hear you, man. I want to ask about that. I figured you were going to say some of those things because I can tell the kind of guy you are. I would imagine that somebody like, so you're talking about still cleaning the toilets and doing things like that. So you've not removed yourself from, you know, you work on the business, I know, and you work in the business. I want to ask you, Alexa, tell me about working for Ray and what that's like, because I listen to that and I see a guy who, that inspires me. That sounds like somebody who leads by example versus, you know, telling people what to do. He's still doing a lot of these things. Tell me about what it's like to work for him. I mean, I can tell you're really happy here, and clearly you're working out ways to go across the world for 3 months and still be back here. So there's something meaningful and a connection here for working for this man, I would imagine.
No, it's great seeing him here, seeing all the owners here actually, and really pulling their weight. I've worked at so many other places, you know, managed other places where I can go weeks and months without seeing the manager or the owners ever. And these guys are just here all the time. They're always answering any questions that I ever have. Just like if something today I walked into the door and was just like, this needs to be done, and he was on the phone before I even finished the sentence, and he just like got the issue resolved, you know, like where other times if I need to get an owner to get an approval for something, it might take me 3 phone calls, a couple emails, some text, and maybe it'll get done, but it's not like that here, which is such a dream to be able to work for these guys. Coming in, I think I was a little intimidated just coming to work for 3 Irish guys, you know, who have been together since the 90s, and then, you know, trying to come in and like, you know, bring in some of my opinions and stuff. But they listen to me, and like the whole thing with going in for the events, like they're just like, yeah, just do whatever you like, do what you think is right, which is amazing because I don't feel like micromanaged at all, and they trust me enough to leave for 3 months, and which is awesome, and you know, have my job waiting for me when I come back, which is just a dream. I can ask to work for better people, especially Ray.
There's a book I read years ago, and it really stuck out. It's called Drive, and the subtitle's like "What Motivates Us" or something like that. But it was this guy named Daniel Pink, and he kind of looked into like what kept people in their jobs motivated and excited and hungry, and it was, who knows with this stuff? I don't know. You know, you can tell a narrative and come up with 3 things, but it really stuck out. He said that the 3 things that really keep people motivated are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And that, I mean, I read that book 7 or 8 years ago, but those 3 things really stuck out because it makes a ton of sense to me to have the autonomy to do what you want to do it the right way, to continue to learn, to be able to master what you're working on, have some sense of purpose about what you're doing. And that seems like the culture that you've created here, and that you and your partners lead and are lead by example, and have instilled here, which is why people are happy here. And I'm going to guess that, you know, I guess this comes from Danny Meyer, but you know, he talked about keeping your staff happy first. They come first, and if you keep them happy, then the customers are happy, and if the customers are happy, then ultimately the business thrives and the investors are happy. But staff first kind of mentality, is that sort of encapsulating a lot of your philosophies, right? Yeah,
I would have to agree with that. Yeah, I mean, my big thing is, you know, Alexa's probably tired of me saying this here, but I'm a big believer in the team. You know, it's you don't work for me, we work together. Yeah, you know, we work with each other, and the only way to do that successfully is, in my opinion, is you have to empower people. You know, people have to be able to use their own creativity and flex their creative muscle. Or be a voice and that'll be listened to. You know, I mean, we have staff here that we've elevated from being server to now running the floor. That's because we listen to staff, we listen to concerns, we take on board concerns that staff may have, and there's never this is the way we do it, and that's it. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of that, but bringing it back to empowerment, you know, you give people a voice and an ear, and it can make a big change to the business, you know? Absolutely.
So. Good deal, y'all. Alexa, anything else on your mind?
No, I think we went through everything.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Y'all, I appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate the chance to...
Thanks for Schedule Fly as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We love Schedule Fly.
That's cool. Well, thank you for bringing it everywhere. Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't realize that's
my fifth restaurant bringing you guys.
I mean, I knew you brought it here.
Savannah.
Golly, that's well. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We're fired up to get to serve places like y'all. I mean, this is why we built the business. We built it to serve independent restaurants and small organizations. We don't serve chains, and we just love sharing in your story and being a tiny part of it. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to be here today, and appreciate it very much. Thank you for the time.
Appreciate it. Nice to finally meet you.
Good to finally meet you too.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
very nice to meet you.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.